Arizona voters are now less likely to vote for their Senator Kyrsten Sinema after her downvote on the $15 an hour minimum wage, showing that no longer can Democrats get away with being ultra-conservative and expect to keep their position. So there's a lot of data here, not even just one poll, several polls. But let me start here with Data for Progress. So they put out this week. Arizona voters support the $15 an hour minimum wage. So 61% overall support for the wage increase, 89% overall support from Democratic voters, and 54% support from independent voters. Now, this also translates to support or lack thereof for Kyrsten Sinema. So Arizona voters may be less likely to vote for Senator Sinema due to her opposition to the $15 an hour minimum wage. So this is posing the question that Sinema has said that she may not support raising the federal minimum wage. Will this impact your support of her? Well, let's take a look here. Yes, it will. So 60% of Democratic voters are now less likely to vote for Kyrsten Sinema following her downvote on the wage increase. And also 52% of independents less likely to vote for Sinema. And Republicans, I don't ultimately care that much about, but some of them as well, also less likely to vote for her because of her opposition to that. And Mark Kelly, the other senator in Arizona, his support much higher than Kyrsten Sinema, and he voted for the wage increase, showing you there is another way. As somebody in Arizona, you don't actually have to be a conservative to get the support of the people. If you support working class policy like a wage increase, the people will be there to support you. More data, more analysis here from Common Dreams. So with Sinema having won her Senate seat by just over 2 percentage points in 2018, and with the survey finding that only 42% of respondents view her favorably, proponents of a minimum wage are hoping political expediency will change the senator's mind. The verdict is clear, concluded Data for Progress senior writer Lou Blank. In Arizona, voting to raise the minimum wage is the smartest political move. To better represent Arizona voters and maximize her chances of winning re-election, Senator Sinema should embrace the $15 an hour minimum wage push for more stimulus. So this is a lot of this really was obvious before the election, before the American Rescue Plan went through. There was plenty of polling showing that, in fact, the most popular aspect of that COVID relief bill was the wage increase that was taken out of the bill. So the most popular aspect of the bill was taken out. So, of course, it's going to have an impact on voters who see the very senators that were at fault for that. And also, of course, look, ultimately the fault lies on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. If they wanted that in there, they could have fought for it. They could have fought to get these senators on board and vote for it. But essentially, these senators, including Sinema, Manchin, and others, sort of play defense for Joe Manchin and Kamala Harris by voting against that wage increase. EPI, the Economic Policy Institute, says implementing a $15 an hour minimum wage by 2025, as proposed by the Raise the Wage Act, would lift 3.7 million people in the U.S. out of poverty, figures with which even Wall Street titan Morgan Stanley concurs. According to the Progressive Center for Economic Policy research, if the minimum wage had kept pace with growth in inflation and productivity since 1968, it would be over $24 today. So there's plenty of analysis on this, plenty of data on this, that $15 an hour is really lowballing it, and it should be much, much higher. But even the bare minimum is not being pushed through right now under a Democratic White House, Senate, and House. Last poll here. So, as I said, multiple data points, multiple polls showcase that Kyrsten Sinema's support is dropping. So in this new Arizona poll, 57% support H.R. 1, the voting rights bill, 60% plus opposed to nearly all the GOP suppression bills, 46% say nuke the filibuster to pass H.R. 1, 42% say keep it. So a plurality of voters support nuking the filibuster to pass H.R. 1, and I assume also to pass other more progressive policy. 27 to 44% favorability rating for Senator Sinema, driven largely by unhappy Democrats. this data is across the board. Kyrsten Sinema now is much less popular because of her opposition to the wage increase in the COVID relief bill. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be broadcast through commercials, media, maybe, if they cover this. But people need to be aware of this. Senators need to be aware of this, that if you vote against policy that supports the working class, that people will recognize that, and you will be less popular because of that, and may in fact lose your seat over your rejection of those pro-working class bills.